Twitter continues to flag and censor President Trump. In this tweet about mail-in ballot issues, Twitter said the content is, quote, disputed and might be, quote, misleading. Joining me now is the White House Deputy Communications Director and Deputy Press Secretary, Brian Morgenstern. Brian, talk to us a little bit about this. You know, President Trump, we sat down with President Trump last week at the town hall, and he was very concerned about the social media bias that he's experiencing. Is it real? Do you believe it's real?
100%, Eric. It is absolutely real, and we're seeing it. The Senate obviously holding a hearing looking into this, and a number of the senators pointing out the obvious bias that you have posts by the Communist Party of China up there claiming the U.S. is responsible for COVID, and posts by the Ayatollah denying the Holocaust. And yet they're allowed to stay up. But the president points out obvious issues with unsolicited ballots being mailed out all over the country, and they flag it and they censor it. I mean, the only explanation really is politically motivated bias. This is a big issue. Free speech is one of the foundational principles of our country. And by the way, the story by the New York Post still can't use its Twitter account. This is the fourth largest newspaper in America, founded by Alexander Hamilton. So when the Communist Party of China can tweet misinformation, when the Ayatollah can tweet misinformation, but they draw the line at the New York Post and the president, there is something seriously wrong. And the American people are waking up to this. And I think we hopefully will see solutions very soon.
So there are a lot of conservatives, me included, who believe there's shadow banning. I will tell you unequivocally, I woke up Saturday or Sunday morning, can't remember which day it was. I checked the total followers on Twitter, and it had dropped 2,800 followers after I posted an interview, a few seconds of an interview with President Trump. But what do you suspect Twitter is up to? Who's doing this? They have guys and gals in the back room going, "Oh, these are conservatives," or "This is the president. Let's pull some followers. Let's silence them." Is that what we think is happening?
Well, Eric, shadow banning is actually in the terms of service. If you read the fine print, most people don't. They claim that they have the right to do it, to limit the distribution of certain content. And one problem here is the lack of transparency. That's something that's currently being discussed, I think, by a number of policymakers, particularly on the Hill, is the lack of transparency into these policies and how they are administered. There are obviously skewed results that are going against conservatives. It makes it, I think, harder for them to get verified, makes it easier for them to lose followers, harder for them to gain followers. The impressions, you can look at impressions for various tweets and stories. They're lower for certain content. And really, I think the only explanation the American people can see here is that it is content-based discrimination. That, I think, will ultimately end up being a First Amendment-related issue.
Well, it may.
We're talking about the free press.
It may, Brian, and only if President Trump in the second term or Joe Biden in his first term and their FCC take up Section 230, which it's too deep to get into right now. But it's that wall that allows social media to kind of be shielded from litigation for things that you're talking about right there. It needs to be taken up. Brian, you mentioned the laptop. In fact, at our town hall with the president, he called it the laptop from hell. I don't want to get into whether it's real or not, but here's a question. Christopher Wray, the FBI director, and the FBI have had that information for more than a year. Will Christopher Wray be long for his job if President Trump gets reelected on November 3rd?
Well, Eric, when the president loses confidence in someone, he generally doesn't keep it a secret. We have no announcements at this time, but I will say that this is a critically important story. It has been verified, despite 60 Minutes and others in the media claiming it hasn't been verified. We have an eyewitness who has gone on the record, who has authenticated emails and documents here, and it's a serious issue. If we have a major party candidate doing business deals, energy deals, potentially with our #1 adversary, China, who goes around the world making energy and infrastructure deals as a way of infiltrating societies, exerting their influence, trying to basically, create this sphere of communist influence. If we have one of the most famous families in America, the Bidens, doing something like that with the Communist Party of China. This is an issue the American people need to know about. The censorship has got to stop. In terms of an investigation, you know, the funny thing about investigations is we generally can't comment on them, including whether or not they exist. We don't know the status of it, and that's really just kind of the nature of law enforcement. So I can't really comment further than that.
Well, let me just back you up a little bit there. So a potential investigation may be underway, possibly may be underway within the, you know, the powers that be, the intel departments within the Trump administration, of Joe Biden or Hunter Biden or both.
Well, look, all we have in the public sphere are the allegations that there are deals being made with the Biden family and potentially Communist Party officials, potentially with Ukraine and the energy companies. These are very troubling allegations that basically access to the Biden family was for sale to hostile foreign powers. And we have a witness on the records noting, by the way, that plausible deniability was the name of the game for the Biden family. This kind of corruption that's been going on with politicians for decades needs to stop. That's why President Trump was elected in the first place, and that's why he's so vocal on this issue.
Brian, I'm going to have to leave it there. Brian Morgenstern, thank you very much from the White House.